Hello and welcome to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tarandu Amarasekara. The global movie and entertainment industry, well, the global box office movie sales are somewhere close to about $40 to $50 billion worldwide. The Chinese movie industry is rapidly growing and somewhere close to $15 billion or slightly more than that. Amidst all this growth and the rebounds of the global cinema industry, especially after a pandemic, where exactly is the Sri Lankan movie industry? A question that makes us ponder what happened to the golden era of the Sri Lankan cinema. Amidst all the talent that this country had, especially in arts, in entertainment, how come we don't feel the same buzz, the same vibe about the Sri Lankan movie industry? Today, here in Bisnomics, we will be speaking to a legend in the Sri Lankan cinema industry about all these questions, serious questions that definitely needs creative solutions and experienced thinking. Our guest today is none other than the legendary filmmaker, Mr. Chandran Rutnam. Mr. Rutnam, absolute honor and pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to Bisnomics.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Rutnam, I'm going to get straight to the point on this matter. What is the current situation of the Sri Lankan cinema industry in terms of the movies that are produced, the artists involved, the professionals working? How big is this industry? Because it is something that we need to understand that this is not something just for entertainment. This is a serious industry. And I think Sri Lankans need to know how important this industry is. Over to you to share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Sri Lankan film industry is not doing well at all. When you consider the rest of the world, like you mentioned, it's a booming industry. It is bigger than the tourism industry in some areas. And it can be a big boom to Sri Lanka as well as it is to India. I often say, if we are doing something wrong, why don't we just go next door and watch the neighbor and see what's happening there.
See what they're doing.
See what they're doing. India is booming. Indonesia is booming. Vietnam is booming.
And now Korean entertainment.
Korean entertainment, film industry. How come we are not? And I feel that, first of all, we have a situation where we have the wrong concept. We know that this was under the Ministry of Culture. There's nothing wrong with that. Anything good or artistic or aesthetic has to come within the range of the Ministry of Culture. And I accept that. But film industry, the film business is an industry. And we must realize that. Only very recently it was acknowledged as an industry. I mean, I pondered why all these years, you know. And my idea is that the platform, you can call it, or the shop, or the shelf, that is the cinema theatre itself, the cinema owners' cinema theatre. We have to concentrate on that. We have been very unfortunate that our national film corporations never understood the film business, I'm sorry to say. And we are trying to regulate what is going to be shown at what time, at what place. We cannot do that. It's an industry. The theatre owner has invested money and he has established a cinema. It is up to him what he puts on the shelf of that shop.
Demand and supply.
Huh?
And demand and supply.
Demand and supply. We can't tell him, you have to do this. That is what our failure has been. We have been doing that. We tell them what to put in the shop and how long they can keep in the shop while it's rotting in the shop. Like, for instance, we even compel some of the cinema owners to keep a film that is not running and for 2 or 3 weeks, saying it'll catch up later. It should not be at the loss of the cinema owner. Seats are empty. Well, it might catch up later, it might not. All depends on how you promoted the film. And the whole idea is to make a film and promote it from day one. Not 3 weeks of emptiness in a cinema where the cinema owner loses his revenue. So I think we have mishandled the whole thing. And another thing is we have all the governments. I'm not pinpointing any one government.
Correct. Because we have had successive governments over the last so many decades.
And every one of them has been a disaster as far as the film industry is concerned. Otherwise, we won't be talking about what happened to Sri Lanka cinema, right? So, you know, we have people, we have not appointed the right people into the right places. we have actors, actresses who are on the board of directors of the film corporation. No, they are good actresses and good actors, but they are not administrators. You can have a representative to refer to certain ideas that the film actor might have to establish his position in the industry. Yes, a representative, but you can't have them running the industry. So you need an administrator. I think things have changed now, and I think we're on the path to growth. I really do feel that, and also because of the new technologies.
Correct. Mr. Ratnam, I want to share some story with you
Yeah.
about my personal life. Now, I remember the very first film I went and watched in the theatre with my parents. Such was the importance of that day for me. And it was a Sinhalese film. I'm sure you may have heard of it, Utura Dakuna. And I remember how excited my parents were to take me. It was like a milestone in our life. But I don't see modern day kids having that same excitement, or the parents having that excitement to take a child to watch a Sri Lankan made Sri Lankan film. But at the same time, we see Sri Lankans very excited about global movies. Whenever there's a new movie coming up, they are talking about it. There are YouTube channels where people are talking about that trailer. There are even separate YouTube channels run by Sri Lankans to analyze trailers of global films. So clearly, people have not lost the interest in movies. They've just lost the interest towards Sri Lankan film industry. Am I correct in my judgment?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. But movies will never go away. Going to the cinema is a habit. It is something that like for instance, now you may have not seen a movie for the last 6 months, but somebody invites you to a movie and you go and see a movie and you enjoy the experience, you go home and say, hey, what's happening next week? Let's go and see another movie. It's a habit.
Correct.
It's not competition. A lot of people think, I want to have my film, I don't want any other films running at the same time. No. One enhances the other.
Correct.
And so on and so forth. So they've got the wrong concept, and the concept must change. And you say, why don't we have this type of movie where the father and mother take the kid and goes to the movies? Well, one thing is, after the new technology of handphones and all that stuff came up, where you can see the movie, there's a certain separation. But that does not mean they don't go to see the movie.
Correct.
It is all depending on content. It is content. We say, well, Rajinikanth's movie is on now, and don't put my movie against that. No, it's not against that. Rajinikanth's movie is going to help your movie, because those guys who went and had that experience,
will want to come
that
and try
habit,
your
will want
movie.
to have another experience.
Correct.
So it is not competition. We have to get away from this competitive aspect of the cinema.
Understood.
You cannot do a movie like I can, and I cannot do, but you can. So we all have our individual ideologies, our creative aspirations, our talents. They're all directed in different ways. So it's not a competitive industry at all. It is something that enhances the other.
Now, the government, as you said, has recognized the cinema sector as an industry.
Yes.
What does this really mean now to the stakeholders involved, such as the actors, the producers, and so on? What does this move really mean? Or is it just a symbolic gesture?
Well, I'm glad it happened. Nothing has happened after it happened so far. But if we do it the correct way, and we really aspire and really mean that it should be an industry, then we should treat it like any other industry. We should assist the industry to grow, and the backbone of the industry is the cinema theatres. Now, for instance, there was some story I heard recently. There was a movie, we only had 36 cinemas, I heard. 36 cinemas?
In the country.
In the country. And then a big hit from India came up, Asha or something. And for that one, suddenly there were 65 cinemas. Why? The cinema owners don't want to open their cinemas when they know that nothing is going to happen there. You see what I mean?
Correct.
So it is important that we make good product. And the only way you're going to make good product is if it is competitive as far as talent is concerned, and the quality of the movie.
Understood.
The quality. We can compete with any country. You know, we can compete with a Rajinikanth movie. Why can't we? It is up to us to get the right story and make the right content, and it'll work.
Correct. Mr. Ratnam, now, if you look at the era of movies with actors such as Gamini, Vijay, but then at that time, people adored these people. They would absolutely go and, surround them, and that same fan craze we see today for some of the Hollywood and Bollywood actors and actresses, they used to enjoy, they used to have. Of course, I was not there in that era, but when I see some of the old records, when they show some of those black and white event scenes, it's very clear how much people loved. But today, I think people would hardly recognize some of the actors who are there. Where did we really go wrong? And let me be very blunt about this question. Is it a case that globalization has come and people have moved more towards the global trends? Or is it poor strategies such as blindly trying to copy some of the Bollywood films? Because like it or not, we have to admit, I am someone, I normally watch movies across all different sectors, Hollywood, Bollywood, and even Sri Lankan films I watch. And I must say that there used to be an era, at least a few decades back, where most of the films we were seeing were very unfortunately very poor attempts at trying to copy some of the Bollywood films. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree, 100%. But there are only so many stories. And you talk about copying. You see, copying a movie, actually copying a movie is not a good idea. But you can copy an idea. Say there's a Hollywood movie. I've done it myself. There's a Hollywood movie. And you see something to that you can introduce to Sri Lanka. The concept only. You don't copy it. Steven Spielberg once said, never copy, steal it. That is, steal the idea.
Correct. And adapt it.
And adapt it. Copying is copying.
Yes.
Anybody can do that. I know that some people just show the original movie here and tell the actors to do exactly what they're doing there. That's not what it's all about. But there are only so many stories in the world, if you really look at it. There are only so many. So you can adapt, you can get ideas. Like I'm a fan of Sergio Leone. Now in every movie of mine, I put a little bit of Sergio Leone in there. So those are things that, it's not copying.
Correct.
You
embrace some of the
trends. You embrace. You become a fan and you embrace it. And where can I put that great idea in my? Will I make a movie where I can use that idea that Sergio did or like Steven Spielberg did? That's okay. But the main problem here is content and story. Story. I always say that. Don't make a movie if you don't have a story that people want to see. Spend the time. I'm a fan of David Lean's. I worked with David Lean on Bridge on the River Kwai. I was his prop man. I was right next to him. I learned something from him. He takes a year to write a script. He gets the script right. If it works on paper, it'll work on the screen. If it does not work on paper, it'll never work on the screen. If you have the biggest star of Hollywood or the biggest cameraman and the greatest director, it will not work. So, what is the problem with Sri Lanka? Is content and quality of content. Now, we have this hang-up about awards.
Correct.
We've got to get rid of that.
The pursuit of awards.
Films
for awards.
That's right.
Mr. Ratnam, we are going to come back to you on more details on that after the break. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break with this very exciting discussion with Mr. Chandran Rutnam. This is Bisnomics. Welcome back to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tarandu Amarasekara. Our focus today is on the Sri Lankan cinema industry. Where did we go wrong and what do we need to make things right? Better late than never is what they say. However, when you're on the showbiz, too late might just not be enough. Well, and we are in discussion with none other than the legend himself, Mr. Chandran Rutnam. Mr. Rutnam, you were mentioning just before the break about this pursuit for awards, thinking that awards is the end destination. We are saying we should come out of that mindset.
We have to get out of that mindset because it is there's nothing wrong in winning an award. It's a lovely thing. I've won a few awards and I'm very happy about it. But we have this award madness.
Correct. And just to add to what exactly the same thing you're saying, sir.
Yeah.
Now, we see in Bollywood, for example, Shah Rukh Khan, some of his blockbuster films never even get nominated to some of the awards. And when you ask him about that, he says, well, I'm not making films for awards, I'm making it for the fans. If the fans love it, that's the biggest award I get.
Absolutely. You said it. you know, unfortunately in Sri Lanka, we come, for me, time and energy, creative energy is very important. We take about 9 months to a year to make a film, and then we stand in the queue for 3 to 4 years. I mean, and you're the director, you have got some producer who has invested the money. He has borrowed from the bank or mortgaged his house. And he's got to wait 2 or 3 years till he sees his money back to revenue.
Correct.
Nothing is happening.
But why does it take so long, Mr. Rutnam?
Well, that's another problem with the National Film Corporation and the system. That's going to change. And I hope so anyway. I think it's going to change.
Because 2 to 3 years sounds way too long. And
yeah.
I know that Sri Lankans don't make so many movies as well for there to be such a backlog.
No, but there's a major backlog. Major backlog.
Okay.
Anyway, let me finish about this award thing now. So now you see, there are numerous awards today. It's called the Dehiwala Film Festival, the Bambalapitiya Film Festival, the Vellavatta Film Festival. Well, not using our country's names, but let's talk about America. Yeah. New York, Manhattan Film Festival, correct. Long Beach Film Festival, all in the state of New York.
Yeah.
Staten Island Film Festival. Yeah. That's fine. But okay, so this guy, the director, wins all these awards, and the producer does not see a penny, and they don't talk to each other again. But the director is happy. He's got all these little things at his house, his brassware, and he's content. Why? He knows how to make a film for awards. That is, you go with the NGO system, is one, and you condemn your country or condemn some institution, try to be very radical, Nothing wrong with controversial movies. I'm not knocking it. What I'm saying is don't make these things specifically for an award. Yeah. Think of that poor guy who put up the bucks to make the movie. I mean, he has seen no revenue at all, and he doesn't even get a credit. So we honor the director with all these awards, titles, and nothing happens. Correct. We've got to get rid of that. The idea of making money is, idea of making a movie is to make money. We got to accept that. If we do not make money, if there's no revenue, there's no cinema. And if there's no cinema, there's no industry, no creation. Where are we going to show it? Okay, you might put it on a platform, but that's not what real cinema is. So I do believe that film going will never cease. It cannot cease. We have to get back into the habit. And the cinema owners must enhance their cinemas, and the government as an industry should assist the cinema holder, give them some cinema owner, and give them some concessions, and help them develop more cinemas so that we can show films. And another thing is, we must always remember that we must not protect this idea of protecting the Sinhala cinema, protecting the Tamil cinema. Why protect it? Why can't we compete?
Why can't we grow it?
Why can't we grow it? If you compete, if you protect it, the quality will never get enhanced.
Because you're creating a false sense of security.
Right. And you're satisfied with that. You cannot show an Indian film, you have to show a Sinhala film. You cannot show a Bollywood film, I mean, come on. Let them all come into the picture. More cinemas, more revenue for the cinema owners, and more content. And I'll tell you one thing. The idea of talent, we have a lot of talent in this country. I'm really enthused about it. I'm in the production business. I know that there's so much talent, and I've used so much talent. We have some of the best production designers. Who is this Senaka Navaratna, not recognized, but he's world class. Then we have Lalit Senanayaka. These are world class people. I can take them to Hollywood and they'll be accepted in Hollywood. But what do we have? They don't have the opportunity. But things are changing now, and with the new technology, we have the opportunity. Everything is going to change very soon.
The artists who are coming up the ladder, what are your thoughts on that? Does Sri Lanka have a proper education system for film artists to come up the ladder and showcase their skill? Or do we see a big gap between the talent we have in this country, not in terms of the technical side, but maybe in the acting front, versus the talent we see in countries like India? Because honestly, Mr. Ratnam, I feel that in nowadays we see a little bit of a more dangerous trend. Nothing wrong with it particularly, but there used to be a time where artists used to be very much focused on building up their acting career, acting talent. Now it seems to be about, let's get the face out on screen in a little few places, and then the rest of it, let's make money on social media by having so many followers. Is that a bit of a dangerous trend?
It is dangerous, but I don't think it's going to last. They are flash in the pans, you know. But to answer your earlier question about do they have facilities to teach acting, I think there are a few schools, and there are some actors, some good actors who are teaching the younger people. You know, I think Mr. Mahendra, he does a good job, and Anoja Veerasinghe, she does a good job. And these are people who are really contributing to the industry. But we need more schools, we need more opportunities, and a lot of it, I believe, is by osmosis. That is, if you expose yourself to other actors, if you see your heroes, if you keep watching movies, and you gradually, a form of osmosis takes place, and then you can reach somewhere. I think so. And the other thing is, the most important thing is, if you can have all of that.
Correct.
But luck. That is the most important factor.
They say, after all, some individuals like Shah Rukh Khan became popular because so many people rejected the script of Bazigar, and he was the one who took it up and did it, and the rest is history.
That's what I mean. So you can, but you must, for luck to hit you,
correct,
you must be ready.
And work hard.
And you must work hard and be ready to accept the luck. There are a lot of us, when luck hits us, we don't even know what happened. It just passes us by. But if we are ready for it, correct, and especially in acting, it is a networking. You have to network. You can be the greatest actor in the world, but if you don't know people, if you don't talk to people, if you don't get to know directors and producers, you have to network. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game, but you have to do it. It's an arduous task. It's not an easy profession. But once you get in there, you feel good, you know.
There's an interesting Bollywood movie, I believe, Luck Pe Chance, about the same aspect. How that you need to be lucky, and you need to work hard to get the luck, and when the luck hits you, you need to know how to make it work.
Exactly.
Ms. Ratnam, let's talk about another area I know which you are very passionate about, filming locations. Now, we haven't seen too many global movies in the recent times being recorded in Sri Lanka per se, but we see some countries like, for example, Australia coming up very strongly, at least pre-pandemic, as locations for filming the various new movies that are coming up. We see Iceland coming up in a massive way as well. Are we not being able to attract these foreign movies to Sri Lanka for filming, number one? And number two, are we even making use of the existing infrastructure properly, like, for example, the cinema village? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been in that business for a long time. And I'm proud to say that I brought in over 60 to 65 foreign films to be made in Sri Lanka. Of course, recently with the COVID and things like that, it was very difficult. But my answer is, leave us alone. That is, no interference from the Film Corporation and the Tourist Board. They know how to mess things up big time. That's the fact.
Strong statement.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we have to accept that. You know, they don't. Now look, talking about the film tourism and things like that. We did Bridge on the River Kwai. We never knew it's going to be an iconic film. On every 10 best list, Bridge on the River Kwai. What did Thailand do? They built a village around the idea of the movie in Kanchanburi. It's a little village. They made it a tourist attraction, pushing the movie Bridge on the River Kwai. For 50 years I've been saying, build the bridge, make it a tourist attraction. Even today, tourists go and see the little hole where the bridge was. One of the boulders of the bridge. Very sad. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Correct.
I'm trying to build the bridge, the rope bridge, much cheaper than building the big bridge on the River Kwai thing. Now there's a new movie coming out, a new Indiana Jones coming out. Now we can ride on that, if we have that.
Correct.
Follow the trail of Indiana Jones to Sri Lanka. These ideas I've thrown at the film.
And I believe even Jungle Book too.
Jungle Book. We did that. But we never made use of it.
Is there a problem with the authorities not being far-sighted enough?
They just don't get it. They just don't
Simple
get
as
it.
that.
Just don't get it. And they will not, let me put it this way, not to brag. Have they ever asked me, the man who brought 60 movies? Have they ever asked me what I think? Have I been invited to a discussion? No, I don't mind that. But that's what I mean when I say they just don't get it. So but things are going to change, I think, because the technology has changed and the moving and the industry is developing, it's moving fast. So we have to get on the bandwagon and move fast with them.
What action do you think is needed from the side of the government and government policy to get the movie industry in Sri Lanka going? And another subset of this I want to ask Mr. Rutnam. I've been living in this country from the day I was born for over 3 decades now. But while I've seen so many Sinhalese movies coming up, it's very rarely we see English movies, even Tamil movies. And I know so many of Tamil friends or Tamil young people, I know they'll be much looking forward to, the latest Rajinikanth movie or the latest Ajit movie or the Vijay movie or the Surya movie versus, because there's hardly anything in Sri Lanka for them to look forward to, a Tamil movie. What do you think the government need to do in order to get these non-Sinhala movies as well promoted? Because at the end of the day, I feel that the more we promote a more all-inclusive movie strategy, I feel personally that the Sri Lankan cinema industry will take off even better. Am I wrong to think so?
Yeah, but I don't think you can cite the government on that. It's got nothing to do with the government. It is the individual filmmakers. A Tamil filmmaker, if he wants to make a Tamil movie, he should make it. What's stopping him? Now I am making movies for the international market. I make English movies.
Correct.
I made Sinhala movies. I'm planning a Tamil movie, but I'm mainly focusing on the international market. We did a Common Man with Sir Ben Kingsley,
yes,
which was shown it's only Sri Lankan film that has had a worldwide distribution. Only Sri Lankan film. So I'm just saying we are opening the pathway. So let's follow it. Let's make international film. That does not mean it has to be in English. Not necessarily. If you have a good story in Sinhala, a good story, you can subtitle it.
Correct.
And you can get a worldwide distribution.
Such as the French cinema.
That's right, the French cinema. We watch French films all the time.
Correct.
We are happy with our subtitled, yes. So how about the Korean invasion? Korea is taking over cinema in several parts of the world.
The Parasite movie, which
being
the best one in
so
the
why
world.
can't we do it? No, we make the movies. Once again, I hate to say, to condemning our own country and showing the bad side of the war and the good side of the war, whatever that is controversial, and some NGO will give you an award. So get away from that system. Make a film that makes money.
Understood. We are going to come back to the discussion once again, Mr. Rutnam. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is Bisnomics. Welcome back to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. We are in conversation with the movie industry legend of Sri Lanka, Mr. Chandran Rutnam, on the current status quo of the Sri Lankan cinema industry and what actions we need to take in the way forward. Mr. Rutnam, let's take a look at the Bollywood industry. As you very correctly said, our neighbor, let's see what they are doing right. Now, massive growth, hugely popular worldwide. In your view, what are the obvious and not so obvious reasons behind the growth of them? Is it the case of big numbers? Because I read a few years back that more than 10 million Indians were going to watch movies every day. That's more than half of the Sri Lankan population. And They also have a massive expatriate numbers around the
Absolutely,
world.
around the world,
So,
yeah.
what are the obvious and not so obvious reasons for them to be so successful?
Well, the obvious reason, of course, is the numbers, right, that you just mentioned.
It's a numbers game.
It's a number. I mean, the population of India and the population of Sri Lanka and so on and so forth. But I think they make movies to entertain. Entertain means is a good word. It is misunderstood. When you say entertainment, it's not dancing around the trees. It's having you, the audience, concentrate on the screen
Glued to the screen.
for 2 hours. That means you are entertained. It's not a bad word. So let's entertain the people and fill the seats and get the revenue for the film producer and the theatre owner.
Isn't that what Sri Lankan movies used to do back in the day?
It used to be that way. It used to be that way because they were producing content that and fed it to the people. At that time, that was the content that was popular.
Correct.
You see, today the content that the singular filmmaker is making, I hate to say this, is not popular.
And it doesn't. There is no resonance of the content
There
with
is no
the current generation.
With the current generation. But that does not mean there is no talent here. There are young people who are doing things on the YouTube.
Short films and short
films.
stories.
And I am encouraging them, and they should be encouraged to make feature films, and they will. It's only a matter of time. You see, the technology coming into the industry is going to make all the changes, whether we like it or not, whether any government likes it or not, whether the National Film Corporation likes it or not. You know, that should be a regulatory body, and allow this industry to grow, and allow the film cinema owners to grow. They have to grow together. And now, when you make a film in India, they have already set the distribution date, and they make the film a few months before the distribution date. There's no waiting period. You see? So they immediately go into a revenue situation. Whereas we are going to pay the bank interest and interest and interest and sell the house and, mortgage gone and everything gone. And the economics do not work. So we've got to get away from that. We've got to find a solution for that. We should get talented filmmakers to make films at the right budget, and also and that depends on the story. You got to entrance the audience with your story. You got to hook them on. If I always say, when I make a movie, I look at the audience. I hide and look at the audience at the premiere to see if anybody went to the washroom. And I figure if anybody went to the washroom, my movie is not doing good. Or if anybody goes and says, "Darling, I'll go and get you a popsicle," and leaves the cinema, that means you have not captured the audience interest in the content of the movie.
Correct.
So that is very important.
It's a very tough benchmark, though. But
but
kudos to you. That's what makes you a legend.
No, I don't mean that. I'm not talking about me. But now you're talking about Shah Rukh Khan. Then why not make movies like that? If that's what's selling. I mean, sometimes I go to class. I'm invited to give some talk at some class, and I ask everybody, "What do you want to do?" And everybody wants to be a director. And I said, "Why?" "I like to get an award." And I said, then I said, "Ask me the same question." They very, very reluctantly and respectfully asked, "Sir, why do you want to be? Why are you in the movie business?" I say, "I want to make some money." They're absolutely stunned. But that is a factor that you have to consider. Otherwise, you don't make the next one. You might have the great ideas of making profound movies, artistic, cultural, all that is good. But bear in mind that it's got to bring in some revenue for the producer. Otherwise, that guy is not going to say hello to you again.
Or invest in another movie.
Yeah, nobody will. Most of the producers in Sri Lanka will not invest in the second movie. Most of them.
Understood. Technology, massive factor once again.
Yes.
Ms. Rutnam, how do you see technology changing the dynamics of the movie industry, number one? And number two, does Sri Lanka have adequate technology to compete with the likes of the world?
Absolutely. I'll be very clear on this. We, in the old days, we looked at Hollywood. I lived in Hollywood for 40 years. It's only a town. You know. And anyway, so we looked at Hollywood. Hollywood, that's where they make the movies. That's where they know how to make the movies. Then Hollywood came here and made movies with us. And they said, thank you. You guys are terrific. We'll, not only your locations, your production team is good. You guys did a good job. Then I thought, so if I'm doing a good job for Mr. Spielberg and Mr. Lucas, why can't I do a good job for myself? You get my point?
Yeah.
So we can. Now you talk about the technology. The technology is here. We can do anything that Hollywood can. We can do anything. We have the technology and we have the talent. Of course, we do not have the budgets that Hollywood has.
Correct.
You know, I made a movie with Ben Cross, and in an interview he said, there's no difference between Sri Lanka and Hollywood as far as production. Only the budget is much smaller. That is the fact. So we can compete today. We have the knowledge, we have the technology, and we certainly have the talent.
Understood. Mr. Rutnam, on a final note, I want to dedicate this time for a little bit of inspiration from your side, because you have probably had an extraordinary journey yourself. How did it all start, and what lessons from your journey in the movie business would you like to share with budding producers, directors, and actors?
Well, it's a long road. I have told my story many times, but
we would love to hear it again.
Well, very quickly. I worked on Bridge on the River Kwai when I was a teenager, and I had the very good fortune of being next to David Lean for 6 to 7 months, because I was a standby prop man. So I watched him, I learned from him, and then I liked what he did, and I wanted to be like that. So when they left the country, I left the country. And I went to London and said, knocked on their door, and I said, can you give me another job? I worked there, then I went to Hollywood, knocked on the door and got another job. And the whole idea is, if you have the dream, don't give up. A lot of us work very hard and just back out just before it happens. So it's that last lap. So if you are creative and you have some great ideas, go after it. Don't give up. It won't be easy, but don't give up, it'll happen.
Are you hopeful about the future of the Sri Lankan cinema industry?
Absolutely. I'm more than hopeful. I have big plans to do things in Sri Lanka. This is my home, this is my country, and this is where I want to build the cinema industry. And I'm taking steps to do that.
And maybe a final word to the actors and actresses, Mr. Rutnam, because end of the day, they are the ones whom you see on the screen. But of course, they might be a little worried where is this industry heading. And in fact, maybe some of them are not even coming to the industry like they used to, or maybe they're doing it part-time, which is still not a problem, I believe. What is your advice to them in terms of further developing their talent or sharpening their saw, let's say?
Yeah, first of all, you have to have the passion. If you really believe that you have the passion, and you define that first of all, and they really want to pursue this career, then they must go to classes, they must learn, and they must watch movies and use that process of osmosis, as I said earlier, where you can nurture yourself by watching other experienced actors, good actors, and start working.
Mr. Chandran Rutnam, absolute pleasure to have you with us today. It was indeed an honor to hear the thoughts from a legend in the Sri Lankan cinema industry. May you have many more years of producing great movies and taking the Sri Lankan cinema industry forward. And we all wish that you will have the support from the required parties to make that happen. Thank you for joining us. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank a very special guest, I would say a very special fan of Bisnomics, Mr. Kanishka Dunusingha, who took the trouble to contact the studio, contact me, and then talk about his views of the show and then recommend you to me. And that's what we want. We want the audience who watches this show to talk to us and then recommend great guests, great voices of Sri Lanka whom we can have on this show. So, Kanishka, thank you for that as well. And
I thank him also. I thank him too.
And Mr. Rutnam, once again, wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice to be on the show.
When it comes to the cinema industry, knock on the right doors. And when the doors open and when luck comes your way, make sure you are ready to capitalize on that. And it's not about the budget, it's about the content. Make sure you have good content and come up with great stories which will sell and make this Sri Lankan cinema industry shine like in the golden era. I am Tharandu Amarasekara, and I will see you next week. And as they say in the cinema industry, it's a cut and lights out.